And then you have the regret of, I said I was going to finish this and I didn't. It's a hard call. It's a hard decision, especially when you're the one who has to make the decision. It's not a team decision. It's not a group decision. It's your decision. And whatever decision that you make, are you going to be able to live with yourself? Does it get to a point that we are just trying to finish up and follow through on what we said, even though we're not really interested in it as much as we said that we are, or we found out that the obstacles in front of us, what it requires to get the job done, we don't have it at that particular moment in time. Welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are engineered to win. In today's episode, we are going to talk about sprint goals and pivoting and the things that and how that applies to your life, right? So I'll start off like this. Being that I am in QA and part of a software development team, we work in the agile methodology. If you're not familiar with that, that's something that you should look into. There are tons of video on it on YouTube, and I even am going to be doing a presentation on it for my Patreon members. But in a in Scrum, we have something that called sprints, and we work pretty much every 2 weeks. We go to deliver a new mini goal in sight of a greater goal, right? And in that, we have sometimes we might set a goal, and then as we are working on it, we find out things that were unexpected situations that come up, that things we were not aware of before. So then we might have to eventually make modifications to be able to continue to accomplish that goal, or we might have to pivot to a different goal, right? Based on the circumstances. So my question comes when we bring it out to life, because I believe that you can organize your life to, run it as you would a software development. Like really, your life is like software, right? Always making improvements to it. There's going to be bugs and defects that you need to modify and adjust and fix, and you just keep it moving that way. So then I come and I think, all right, well, what happens when you set a goal or a plan or something that you wanted to accomplish, and then different turns in life of unexpected things happen. How do you adjust? How do you go through it? Right? So is it ever okay to pivot on goals that you would set for something that you wanted to accomplish, something that you wanted to get done, right? Is it okay to make modifications to that? Well, logically and unemotionally, you would say yes, of course, things happen and you make adjustments and you move on. However, there is also the other side of your pride and your ego that would say no, you have to keep going, and you have to push forward, push forward, push forward, and see what happens. Which one, and is it is it pride and ego? It's so hard to tell, right? Because you you go out with a plan and you have everything determined on how you're going to accomplish it, and just it sometimes it's like every step of the way there's another obstacle, there's another challenge that comes up, and you are going to make the necessary adjustments. And at what point is it like, all right, this is not in the best interest to do? Like the returns are diminishing at that point, you know? And it's so hard to figure out that balance because, you said that you were going to do something. You have been working on this for quite some time, but along the way, nothing Nothing goes as it was planned, and you are it's like you're fighting something that you're not sure what you're fighting at anymore, right? It's so hard to put into words. Like these are raw thoughts. It's like what exactly is the goal at this point? Is it just to say, "Oh, I said I was going to do it, so I have to get it done," but at what cost and at what results? If nothing matters but the results, because like that's one of the things that I say, right? Nothing matters but the results. If nothing matters but the results, then does it make sense that your pride and your ego drives what you're going to do? I mean, some of the worst decisions come from making emotional decisions, and a lot like emotional decisions, they're based on pride and ego, like regardless of all the different reasons and excuses that we can make for like our emotions. At the end of the day, it's based on our pride and our ego. So yeah, so now you end up having like these conflicting interests, these conflicting mindsets of, well, I said I was going to do this, so I have to do it because I said I was going to do it. But then on the other side, you're like, well, all of these things came up that makes it also feel impossible to actually get this done successfully. Like you can do it at, you know, a quarter capacity, at half capacity, and what are you getting out of it? Just to say that, oh, well, I did it, I completed it. But if your completion to it isn't going to bring success, you know, is a success that you just did it, but not at your highest quality, or is it that, or is it making the decision of, well, let's pivot on this goal, on this sprint goal, you know? And the funny thing is when you are in a when you're in a like a software development team, a scrum team, there's many people to make that decision on, you know, it's not like solely your decision that, all right, we're going to pivot on this goal, we're going to go towards something else. It's like it's a team decision, but in your life, as much as you can get different advice and recommendation and you know, at the end of the day, it's your life. So you are going to be the final one to make the final decision on what you're going to do. It's not something that you can pass off on somebody else, you know. You take the necessary advice, the necessary guidance, but at the end of the day, it's on you, right? So whatever you decide, you have to live with those decisions as hard and as tough as it may be. So yeah, when you have to make that decision for yourself, it's a hard thing to figure out. It's a hard balancing act, especially if you have that mindset of, you know, I said I was going to do this, I have to do it, and you know, at the same time, it seems like everything is working against you. And, you know, if you ever heard the saying, trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which, you know, that's not logical. That doesn't make any sense. But, you know, some people, they'll take a hammer and they will bang it in there. So, you know, it's so it's hard to navigate that aspect of life. And, you know, it weighs a lot on you on what is the best way to adjust, what is the best way to pivot. And, you know, it's everyone everyone who is committed to something, they have to think about that. They have to deal with that. And what's the right answer? You know, it's tough because I'll put it like this. I come across people every day who reach out to me saying that they want to pivot into like they want to pivot into tech, right? They've been doing this for a long you know, it can be whatever. It can be so many different things. You know, trucking, nursing, um I don't even know, right? They've been doing it for a long time, and they want to get into tech. They've done a boot camp maybe, and they're applying for a bunch of jobs, and they're not getting any results. So they want to get coaching, and so we start coaching and put you in the way that I run my coaching group, and they don't perform, they don't show up, but they really want to they really want to pivot into tech. How much do you really want to pivot? Is it something that is does it get to a point that we are just trying to finish up and follow through on what we said, even though we're not really interested in it as much as we said that we are, or we found out that the obstacles in front of us, what it requires to get the job done, we don't have it at that particular moment in time. Are we supposed to pivot on our sprint goal? Are we supposed to move on? Are we supposed to make modifications? What do you do? You're up against the deadline that you set or that was set for you. Who knows, right? And what do you do at that point? It's a hard call. It's a hard decision, especially when you're the one who has to make the decision. It's not a team decision. It's not a group decision. It's your decision. And whatever decision that you make, are you going to be able to live with yourself? It's so hard to say, because once it's all over, it's over. But you can you can force that square peg into that round hole, and then you can be upset about it afterwards or have regrets, or you can walk away and say, okay, we're going to pivot on the sprint goal, and maybe we'll come back to it later if it warrants it, or we just totally move away from it. And then you have the regret of, I said I was going to finish this and I didn't, which I think both is a losing scenario, right? There's no winning scenario in this. I've spoken to people who said that they've put in, or what they believe is the right amount of time and effort to get into the tech industry, and they're not seeing any results, and they are leaning towards going back to their or sticking to their original career plans or what they've been doing for X amount of time, even though the reason that they wanted to switch away from what they were doing was not like there was a reason that they wanted to switch away from it, but they didn't get the results that they what was told to them that they needed to do to get the results. They did it, and it didn't get them the results. So then they were under the impression of, well, let me see if I can, do it this way. And when you find out it's a lot more work that needs to be done in order for you to be ready, you weigh the cost and say, well, should I just stay where I was at, or should I force it? And by that time, you've invested a lot of time, a lot of money into this. So it's such a hard decision to make. Is it time to pivot on my sprint goal, or do I push through? And if I push through, what if I never get those results that I was desiring for? It's a it's a tough decision that every single person battles with, because at the end of the day, are you quitting? Are you making adjustments? Are you setting another goal in sight? Only you can figure that out. Only you can determine. But that pride, that ego, it eats at you because you have the mindset of, especially if you have the mindset of, I said I was going to do this. And I gave my word that I was going to do this, but at the same time, the weight of doing it, it's like you're going against all odds. And that's just to get there. That's just to get there. You might be walking in there knowing that, or strongly believing that you're not going to get the desired results, but you got there. And here's a practical technical example, right? So let's say, let's say you went to a boot camp for software engineering, and you take on some projects, you work with some groups, and you see what it takes to do software engineering. And you're like, wow, this is a lot of work. This is really hard. But let's say you spent $12,000 on a boot camp for software engineering. So now you get a job offer for software engineering, and the pay is low to start off with, but you know that it can increase. I mean, 9 times like it's going to increase. If you go into software engineering, your pay is going to increase from when you start off to a few years, right? But from what you had to do, you're like, this is not what I was expecting. The amount of time, the amount of infrastructure, things like that, which a lot of times they don't teach you, they don't show you. So you don't get a full picture. Now, do you take on that position knowing that your pay is going to be a lot lower than you were marketed to, and the amount of work is a lot more than you were sold? In the long run, that position taking that position is going to benefit you in the long run. But you're having second thoughts on, is this something that I really want to do? Is it something that's going to give me the results that I actually wanted when I wanted it? It's a tough decision, you know? Everyone struggles with that decision. I have to approach it from the process and the implementation that I am accustomed to, which is the agile methodology, Scrum, sprints, things like that, and just trying to break it down of what is in my best interest, what is going to put me in the best position to win, what is going to give me the results that I was seeking, or do we pivot to a different, do we adjust, do we pivot to another goal? Because and you've seen me pivot plenty of times on live streams when we're working on different tools. Just the other day, working on Netflix Safe Test, and it was providing diminishing returns. So we just said, okay, we're just going to for this stream, we're just going to work on Flutter for a little bit, and then we went back to working on our automation code. But it's it's a tough call, because some decisions, they have more severe implications than others. Pivoting on a tool on a live stream versus, some life decisions on what do you want to do, how do you want to approach it, how are you going to adjust? It's very different. And you're left with, okay, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do at this point? How do we handle that? I don't know. This kind of conversation is just a more thought provoking one. Raw thoughts, different things that you encounter in life, things that you've set out to do, but you have roadblocks and challenges all along the way that it might be beating you down, and you might you might be at accomplishing the goal, but maybe that accomplishment of the goal wasn't the actual goal that should have been set in the first place. And maybe it's something that should have been pivoted and adjusted way before. But yeah, that stubbornness, that ego, that pride just push you forward, push you forward, push you forward to find out that where it really pushed you towards was to a cliff. And if you push a little bit more, you might be falling off that cliff instead of So the question is, was the results to fall off the cliff or was it something else? That's something that we all have to figure out for ourselves. So, you know, just a thought-provoking candid conversation, something to think about, to look into, to do some self-reflection. In Scrum, after every sprint, we have a sprint retrospective to look back on, what things went right in the sprint, what things went wrong in the sprint, and what obstacles that we encountered, what we can do better to adjust and to, make the necessary modifications to move forward. So, that's all I got. No particular advice, no particular recommendations. It's just think about it and, weigh the cost, adjust, and do what puts you in the best position to win. That's about it. I hope this helped. Thinking about it, putting it into perspective. I don't like maybe it helped me as well. I don't know because I'm just as I'm the same thoughts weigh on me from time to time. And what is the like how do you make the right decisions against competing interests? That you can have interests that are going one against the other and which one is the right one? How do you make sure that it's not your emotions making the decisions and driving you that's going to cause you to you know, not be in the like it's gonna like how do you know which one is going to be the right decision and the wrong decision? Or like are you going to end up regretting either decision? So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do me a favor on your way out. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every time that we go live or drop new content. And if you need one-on-one technical coaching, go over to www.techcoachralph.dev where you can sign up for a plan and we can get to work together. But until next time, this has been another episode of Candid Conversations hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, and we are out.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic Joker.